from talking with folks at your table, we have a lot of different degree programs, a lot of different interests. People are geographically diverse, they're interested in different sectors, so we try to say it needs to be 150 hours at minimum, and really look at being graduate level and an opportunity to really help extend your professional development. If you're a return Peace Corps volunteer coming in as part of the Fellows program, then your requirement is slightly different. You don't have the internship requirement, but rather it's a 75-hour practicum, and that's intended to really come back for that third bullet point of the Peace Corps mission of bringing your international service and layering it back in a domestic context. Real briefly, roughly 70% of Corps Bell students have an internship requirement, either as part of their degree program or if you're enrolled in either the Global Health or Humanitarian Assistance certificates, you also have that requirement. While there are degree programs that don't have a requirement, we see, we did a poll of last year's internship data, and even among the students who didn't have the internship requirement, an additional 22% of students optionally registered an internship. Another trend we're seeing is that students come in and more frequently than in the past, are doing more than one internship. Most often locally here in Colorado during the academic year, and then maybe if you're on kind of the 1 year, 2 year degree program, that you do an internship that's out of area or internationally between year 1 and year 2.
Hi, my name is Diane Fielding, just to mention again, and I'm just going to talk to you briefly about what our students have done in their internships by the numbers. So for the academic year, last year, 2011 to 2012, we had 222 internships total, so those were the ones that were registered with our office. And our students tend to go anywhere and everywhere. They're all over the globe. And about half of the students choose to do their internship over the summer, and the other half are kind of spread out across the academic year. In the U.S., 72% of the internships are done in Colorado, which I think is pretty encouraging because there are a lot of opportunities around this area in areas that are relevant to your degree program. This slide kind of has a lot of information, but it just breaks down the internships that students have done over the past year into the different sectors. So most of the internships were in the nonprofit sector, about 71%. We also had students in the public sector, so for the government, such as the Department of Commerce, Department of State, FBI, and some others that you can see. And we had students intern at private organizations as well. The two on this slide that we just chose were actually in Colorado, so just some more local opportunities in the private sector. And I just think that this list can give you, kind of the breadth and depth of just showing how our students are in many different areas and many different organizations. This chart is showing the breakdown of the payment received for internships, and as you probably know, unfortunately, a lot of the positions are unpaid. However, we actually offer pretty good funding opportunities, assuming that you meet the requirements and you do an internship out of the area. Last year, we awarded a total of $52,250 to students, so that was 74 Corps Bell internships last year that received funding, and we tried to give as many students funding as possible, so spread it out so everyone can receive it.
One final logistical note, I know it's probably hard to see some of the charts and information, and some of the slides are fairly text heavy, so the data that we went over, the employment data as well as the internship data is available on the Corps Bell website under the careers tab as well. If you want to go back and digest your tables and charts a little bit later on.
And just to add one more thing, our office does have kind of a big data collection of all the internships done in the past that we have on record, so that's really useful too, just to, as a student, you can see all the previous organizations that people worked for and where they were located, so that's
so now that we've gone through some of the services and opportunities we have for current students, I want to introduce and ask a couple of our current students who are getting ready to graduate this June to talk about their, how they used our office, but really more about their journey through the last 2 years, their career development journey. And I've asked them to talk a little about what they were thinking when they got to Corbell and how they used the services and how they came to where they are now and what they're hoping to do when they graduate. We have 2 students, as it turns out, who are studying international development. But I really encourage you to use the opportunities throughout today and tomorrow to talk to other students about their career development journey as well. We asked a couple of students who could make it this morning, but they're representing their own journey and their degree program, but I think can talk a little bit more broadly as well. But also, please, if you're not an international development student, ask students that you have the opportunity to meet today and tomorrow about how they used our office or if you are using our office and what they hope to do when they graduate, because I think it'll give you a sense of the breadth of what our students experience here. And so I'd like to ask Laura and Schwinn to come up and introduce themselves and talk about their recent career services.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Burns and I'm a second-year development student. I'm concentrating in environmental sustainable development and humanitarian assistance. And while we're both development students, I think Schwinn and I have had very different experiences that we'll be able to share with you. So a little bit of background about me before I get into how I use the office. Before coming to Corbell, I had interned in Ecuador. I really enjoyed it. I knew I wanted to continue doing that work. The only thing is I actually wanted to be paid for it, and I wanted to be doing it at a higher level. And I knew when I came back that how I had to get there was a master's degree. I knew that would give me the experience I needed and a little bit more professional development. So I decided to come to Corbell. And why did I come to Corbell? I came for 4 main reasons. First, the academics, they're great. Second, the students. I think there's something really special here about the student community that you won't get at a lot of different schools. It's super collaborative, not competitive, but we're all working to kind of bring each other up. Third, the mountains. I think that's pretty obvious. And fourth, the Office of Career and Professional Development. A lot of other grad schools didn't have 4 full-time professional staff dedicated to helping you develop your career path. And for me, coming in, I knew that was something I needed the assistance with. And it was really important for me that we had that resource. So now that you have that background, a little bit about my journey here. While I knew I wanted to get back into the field, getting my hands dirty, I didn't know exactly in what capacity. So that was the first way that the career office was really helpful for me to kind of work with me on what skills I have, what I enjoy doing, and how I can apply that to a specific position, and what that would look like for me. So now that I have that position in the back of my mind, I spent the majority of my first year trying to position myself for an internship, and what an internship would look like. And for me, that meant getting back into the field, getting, again, more of that hands-on experience, so an international internship. So the few of the sources I used at the Office of Career and Professional Development. First, in the fall, there's a really great social impact networking work where they bring in loads of local NGOs that are doing really great work to meet with students, talk about that work, talk about potential internships, and just provide a really good networking opportunity. For me, I hate networking. I forced myself to go because I thought it would be good practice. It also really gave me a good idea of what's happening in Denver, and also how what's happening in Denver is connected to a more globalized context. And it really got me excited about what I was doing here. So after that, I went to the internship symposium, which is also in the fall. And what that is they bring in a lot of students who have done internships over the course of the past year to talk about their internships. What did they do? Where did they go? How did they find it? What did they like about it? What was terrible? What, if they would do it again, would they change? And for me, it was really great to get that information from students who had just been through it. It was a super great resource, and I think that goes back to the importance of the student body here being with people that you want to make connections with and that you'll be networking with from here and the rest of your career. So after the symposium, I then went to that database that Diane talked about. It's full of internship opportunities. It tells you the region, it tells you what degree program the student was in, it tells you the organization. It's a great source, and I use that to kind of target the organizations I was looking at. So eventually, after a lot of applications and a couple internship offers, I accepted one. And what's interesting about the internship I accepted was it was the one internship I found on the Corball Careers database, job database and internship database. It was also the one that I spent the most time with the office crafting my resume and cover letter. Once I was offered the position, it was the one that I talked to the Office of Career and Professional Development about the pros and cons. How would this actually help me in my long-term goal of a career? What would be things that I needed to look for while I was in the internship? How could I plan for it? So they were involved in every step of the internship, ensuring that it was a successful internship. Once I got back in the fall, I then attended, now I'm thinking, okay, I did my internship, how can I apply this to my job search? I gotta get started on this soon. So I attended, there's a workshop in the fall for students that have just come back from the internship to kind of help you process it. So a lot goes on in 10 weeks that you're not necessarily thinking about at the time. You can go to this workshop, talk it through, and see how you're going to represent it on your cover letter and resume. After that, I think I'll go into an actual example of an application process. So I was interested in applying for a fellowship, and the office brought in a Corball alumna who had done the fellowship to talk to students about what the fellowship looked like. After the information session, thanks to a lot of pressure from the office to network, I talked to this alumna, got her business card, and asked if I could have an informational interview with her. After that, I went to the office to prep for the informational interview. What are questions I should ask? I looked at the resources they had on Corball Careers to see how I could formulate this session with this woman so I could get the most out of it. Went to the information session, or the informational interview. It was great. I then started crafting my cover letter, my resume, and my statement of purpose, a whole series of questions. And I spent a lot of hours in the career office working on it. It was successful enough to get me on to the next round. So first thing I did, call the career office and ask for a practice mock interview to prepare for it. So I had the mock interview where they're actually asking you targeted questions. They're doing research on the organization so they know what kind of questions they'll ask. Really prepare you for it. They ask you the questions, and then at the end of it, they give you the opportunity to kind of talk through it. So here's what you did right, here's what you could improve, any questions for us to really prepare you so you can be confident going into your interview. And I was successful enough in that stage to make it to the next stage. So I'm sure you've noticed the pattern right now, but for me, the Office of Career and Professional Development has been an integral component of every success I've had in my internship and job search, and I really just think they're an invaluable resource.